All right, we are live. I'm excited to be back with a returning guest, Mr. Darryl Schoon from DrSchoon.com. He's a market analyst, writer, commentator, you name it. And so, Darryl, happy to have you back here on RTD. How you doing?
Fine. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing excellent, and I'm excited to have you back because there's a lot of things worth talking about. And I'll actually put on the screen here. The last time we spoke was ultimately at the very beginning of everything. And I entitled that one. So it was back in March 19th. It was Bloodbath in the Markets.
19. A lot has happened since then.
So a lot has happened. And you recently
went out to dinner.
And so you recently sent an article out that you posted, and it has a lot of interesting things within it that I want to touch on. And so we'll definitely get into that. And so before I dive any further, I want to welcome all the viewers because we're streaming live. So the article you wrote is Hyperinflation, Capital Destruction, Gold, and Silver. And so we're going to dive into it because there's some things towards the end that I'm sure the viewers definitely want to hear about as far as some prophecies and things of that nature that's out there. So we'll dive into it. But as always, before we move along, I want to welcome all the viewers that are tuning in, as well as feel free to ask questions via the chat. And I'll definitely try to throw them out to Darryl so he can answer those questions. But let's pick up from right where we left off last. Blood in the markets. Here we are 5 months or so later. And capital destruction, hyperdeflation. What inspired you to put that piece together?
Well, that originally came in the 1990s. When I began studying the Great Depression, and this is very early, when I started looking at things, and the question came to me, where did the money go during the Great Depression? I mean, all of a sudden it wasn't there. It was before my time, but all I knew, money wasn't there. And did the rich people have it, not spend it? I mean, that's the usual common thought, all right? But my study of money showed me the money wasn't there because money wasn't what we thought it was. Money wasn't like gold and silver, and all of a sudden you had it and I didn't. And you had it all and I didn't have any of it. Money by the 1930s was merely circulating credit and debt. All right? That's all it was. Yeah. Circulating credit and debt, little pieces of paper that represented circulating credit and debt. And when the markets crashed and when banks went under and all of these obligations defaulted, money literally disappeared because all it was circulating credit and debt. Debt was gone. It was never going to be paid back. And credit was withdrawn from the market. So what we called money disappeared. So I've known that in my brain for 20 years now.
Yeah.
All right. And so when this thing came up and I saw this huge money printing just going on like this, that's when it occurred to me to try out my old hyperdeflation. This is what happened in the 30s. It disappeared. It's not there.
Yeah.
Not there. And they printed as much money in June as they did in the previous in 200 years after our country got formed.
Yeah.
All right. It's like pouring water into your toilet that's constantly draining. It's not coming up.
Right.
They keep pouring it in and it's just going down. This started really in 2008 and they've had it on since then. But what happened in the spring of 2020? A whoosh. I mean, it hit you straight in the ocean. All right. So now you've got all the central bankers just pouring it in. And notice it's barely staying afloat.
Yeah.
Barely staying. And who we are, we're in the toilet holding onto these lifeboats, afraid it's going to sink us down. And they're sitting there pouring water in, not to save us. They just, because they make money on the toilet.
Yeah.
I mean, we're just flotsam and jetsam. But they know if it disappears, there goes our game.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. All right.
So fair enough. So so you pretty much caught us up to speed, and so we're in the toilet bowl going down. They're pouring more in, and we're hanging on for dear life. And so when it comes to capital destruction, and so right now because we're in negative territory, Treasury's all time low. Everything is a problem in of itself, and it's been exposed. Therefore, you have a lot of individuals that's looking for places to put their funds. And when there's no security whatsoever in the old financial system. And so people right now are basically clamoring for some sense of hope and some sense of how to prepare and preserve their future while it's being destroyed.
It's always been gold and silver. That's what I've said for 20 years now. All right. Yeah. Because I saw this happening. When I came out with Time of the Vulture, this to me was baked in the cake. I didn't know when it was going to happen. Yeah. All right. And when I made my prediction in 2007, markets collapsed in 2008, it started the process. But the time of the vulture isn't here yet. It hasn't totally collapsed. When you know when it's collapsed, when there's no water in the toilet bowl. All right? There's no water in it. All right? And what I've always said, buy gold, buy silver, have faith. All right. And the third one is the hardest to come by. And I made a snarky little remark in my book. I just reread it and said, and faith is the hardest to come by, and it's best to get it now while it's getting still good. All right. Because when you're like this, you're forced into doing things, because I think your mental awareness is not enough to save you. To understand why COVID is happening, or to understand why a car works, doesn't help you when it just stops in the middle of the desert some night. Right. You may know that there's no gas going from the carburetor into but it doesn't matter. Right. You understand it, but you can't do anything about it. All right. So we are here, and I think your readers have a little more perspective on the process, or they wouldn't be listening to you, your viewers. All right. But to get through it is going to be something. I mean, I remember I was in Dallas in 2006 with my friend Antal Fekete. He's brilliant. What he really showed me a lot about Austrian economics, and he turned to me, Mike, in 2006. We were given it, money, gold, 2006 in Dallas, and Antal turned to me and he said, "You know what? When gold shoots up in price, it's going to be the most tragic day ever." And most people think, "Oh, my gold's going to be rich." Yeah. He said, because everybody's world's going to collapse. Everybody's world's going to collapse. Yeah. We're in this, the world's going to change. All right. And I think this is a part of it. So when you say what to do, it's already been out there. Physical gold, physical silver is going to, I put in a quote by my friend Ralph Terry Foster, the third prediction. And Ralph Foster goes, what I see right now is the reversion back to gold and silver coins. Yeah. Hard money. All right. So basically, in terms of what the wherewithal to get by, that's what you're going to need to preserve your savings. They are going to keep putting in trading coupons to keep people from starving. We are all capitalist countries are afraid of their people just dying. Right. I mean, they're no more afraid of social unrest in China than they are here. The thing is that China has always been on the edge of social unrest because it's so much more volatile. We've had credit up our butt for 100 years, so we're cool. Buying the dip, buying the dip, buying the dip. Yeah. Fuck you, buying the dip. Buying the dip. So we think we're all right. Yeah. They've gone up and down, dip up, dip up, dip. The government can put a gun in their head like that, and they do it with impunity. Here, we think, oh, we're cool. Well, you're cool until you're not. Yeah. You're cool until you're not, and it's not there yet. Yeah. It's going to be. So faith in the process is what I think is, but you can't sell that.
And right, so faith is is either you have it or you don't. And so right now, of course, it would have been great to have it a long time ago, but faith is always tested, and it's tested and purified in the midst of a crisis. And we're in that now, in a sense, but you're saying we're not there yet. So we're going to get into what that transition looks like, because according to some stuff you mentioned in the article there, you're saying that after 20, or some prophecy type things were said that after 2020, America politics will never be the same again. And you're going to dive into that. But in regards to what we're looking at now, depression, and so the mainstream narrative is still recession. Just as last week, I mentioned that some economists were allowed and bold enough to come out and admit that it's playing it small to say a recession. We're long past that point.
Mike, I want to tell you about the creation of the word recession. The word recession came into being after the 1930s.
I don't doubt it. Because
they didn't want to say the word depression anymore. It was so scary. Yeah. It was so scary.
They downgraded it. They downgraded the word.
In the media, when they talk about low inflation, they're talking about deflation. They're so scared of deflation, they call it low inflation. They won't even go there because that's the last time the toilet almost emptied out. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that World War II, the United States ended up with all the gold, because of what we did, we raised the price, we took it away from all the Americans, and home state mines went up 1,000%, and all that gold anyway was stolen from the Indians on Lakota Sioux Reservation on Pine Ridge. Home state mines, they stole it from them. I hear all these people bitching about how Roosevelt stole their gold. They don't even talk about where their gold was stolen from. So it's a big deal. That's not the point. But the point is that what their greatest fear is happening. All right, the end of a system has come. Capitalism is a Ponzi scheme of credit and debt. All right, and everybody likes the upside. We all like the expansion. All right, and contraction is to balance out the excess credit. All right, but what has happened is, in the last 50 years, we haven't had any fallbacks. We haven't had any real recessions, all right? Because we're getting towards the end of the game where it's so extreme that a small pullback can take you over the edge. All right? They know what starts small could end up with all the water emptying out of the toilet. So anytime it appeared it was going down, there it went. Push, pour more in. Interest rates dropped. And then in 2008, interest rates didn't work anymore, so they had to start pouring in extra water. That's QE. Yeah, that's QE. Jiggling the little handle on the toilet with screwing with the interest rates. All right, but when it's still going down. Hey, dear, what are we gonna do? Fix the guy on the toilet. Pour it in. That's what QE was. Now, man.
So I said, so with those analogies there. So pouring in QE. So now to take it even further, the Federal Reserve has hinted at targeting or overshooting inflation and some policies with that, as well as curving the yield curve or altering the yield curve for future borrowing costs. And so they're going into their toolkit, and they have I think 11 lending windows and some special purpose vehicles. And so all these things are being put out there as alternative ways of putting in more water to the toilet.
Mathematics are over the boys. It's surrounded. We're back behind the yellow tape. Yeah. We see lights going on, and we're back behind the yellow tape. All right. And the cops are going, it's all right. Just stay back. Keep cool. Stay back. It's all right. We've got it under control. And we're going, fuck, man. He looked like shit. You see what happened? And people are just scared. Yeah. That's what we are. The fact that the medics are working on the comatose bodies there does not mean they're going to get up like Lazarus.
Yeah.
They're not going to get up this time. It had to happen sometime.
Yeah.
And I've been predicting it, and I don't like this any more than anybody else.
Yeah. Okay. So, it's to continue on the face side of things. And so we have a large amount of unemployed. We got mortgages for
20% of mortgages is not being paid.
Right.
80% of Americans say they're worried about their next credit card payment. And if 80% of Americans are worried about making their next credit card payment, 100% of the banks are worried. If 80% of their customers are worried about not making their credit card, we've come to the game where there's no spin. There's nothing going in. See, they can pour water in. We can't. We're the trickle-down people in the toilet. We really are. We don't have access to that water that they've got, this artificial pump. All right? Yeah. So we're floating. I believe is that when push comes to shove, they're going to keep pouring in enough food stamps or just to keep us off the street. Some people are going to go off the street because they can't stop its obligation. I mean, what is a person going to do when you can't pay your rent? You're going to tell your landlord. Well, what's the landlord going to do? Well, he's going to kick you out.
Yeah,
because he owes Wells Fargo.
But watch this: the executive order, establishing the moratoriums or whatnot, and all those things right there will keep people in their housing. But then you got the consequences for that
for a while.
Right.
You can keep the machine. This is the first time. In the 1930s, they had a thing called a bank holiday. The banks were in such trouble that you're cool. You got a free to go pass for the banks. Yeah. Okay. And one of my friends, he said, this is back in the 90s. Okay. He goes, we should have a savers holiday because he'd been in trouble. Yeah. Right. We should have a savers holiday. Well, we may, but what happens is that all it is going to stop the game at a certain point, because if you start it up again, it's the same game. All right. of obligations, of payments. And when no money is being created, no money. I mean, we're down to what, 20% of what was before, 30, 34. I don't even know what the numbers are. Anytime you go below 80%, 60%, it's fatal. And we're below that in terms of GDP contraction. All right. That means debts aren't being paid. Whether the debt is credit card, whether the debt is a muni bond obligation, whether the debt is rent, whether the debt is a pension plan payment, it's all spinning. So when the flow of money stops, debts default, credit withdrawn, game over. Game over. Now, they're going to do something. They're going to keep us with food or something. But I mean, listen, Mike, in 2014, I gave a talk at a very right-wing conference. You know, Obama, Clinton, and so I'm there, all right, and I decided to like let loose a little, all right, but not badly, all right. I give my talk, and I'm sitting there listening to the rest of the speakers, and some guy came up behind me, and this was spooky, Mike. 2014, he comes up behind me, and this is what he says. Listen, you know more than you're telling us, and you're not telling us. I want to know why. I'm leaning against the wall. Yeah. Listening to the next speaker. And this guy says it again. You know more than you're telling us. And you're not telling us. And I want to know why. Because the truth is, I do know more. Now, I don't know if it's true, but what I hold in my brain, I only let a little bit amount out because it's bad enough the way it is. We used to go to parties, and Martha would go, my wife, don't say anything. People don't want to hear this. They got kids in school, they got trouble. And I go, I've been the prophet of economic doom since the late 1990s. Yeah. It's hard not to be because that's because it's obvious like how bad things really are, and so that's holding on. And those who don't see it because their eyes are shut. Yeah, they don't want to see it, and I understand it. All right, Mike, I have heard things about the future. One of the things I heard from one of the books, one of the most profound books I ever read, profound, in the mid 1980s. This is how long I've been carrying this shit around in my head. It is going to appear on Earth at a certain point that most people are dying. Now, Mike, that's just some of the data that has rolled in. I've been focused in on what is going to happen. And because I'm a hippie, I'm open to more stuff than most. Yeah. I just don't listen to what the central bankers are saying or what MSNBC says. Which is just as fucked as Fox News. Spin. They're all spinning. Yeah. But it's going to appear. Now that was far-fetched, wasn't it? I mean, most people on Earth are dying. That was 1985. That was when I read those words. Pretty far-fetched. Now it seems less far-fetched until you read Sylvia Brown's prediction, which we got to the end of the article. Yeah, Sylvia Brown, this psychic. Now let me tell you why I sort of believe Sylvia Brown. All right, why we do. She's famous. She's made a lot of predictions that didn't happen. In the 1990s, I'm in San Francisco, and one of Martha's friends, her daughter runs away. Her daughter is gorgeous. There's a reason she ran away, and there's a reason somebody ran away with her. I mean, Mike, she was gorgeous. All right. And Martha's friend has a temper. I mean, a temper, and was known for her temper. All right. So she hears Sylvia Brown is giving a talk in San Francisco. All right. Sylvia Brown charged $600 for a reading. She didn't have that kind of money. But so she's standing in line just to buy a ticket to the talk. All right. And Sylvia's probably going to sell her books at the talk, So she's standing in line to buy a ticket. A lady comes out from behind, goes right to her, and says, Sylvia wants to see you. Takes her in the back, puts her down, and Sylvia says, your daughter's coming back. But if you lose your temper, you're never going to see her again in your life. Yeah. Okay. That's enough to get my attention. Not hers. Her daughter comes back. All right. She didn't lose her temper because of what Sylvia said. And later on, her daughter hooked up with one of the most famous basketball players in the world.
Mhm.
And I'm not going to say his name, but that's so. So when Sylvia, so we got this background on Sylvia Brown.
Yeah.
Background on Sylvia Brown.
Yeah.
And we're sort of into this stuff anyway because we're hippies.
Yeah.
Right? Who knows? Not you. Not me.
Mhm.
It's a crack shoe. A lot of
Yeah.
crack. All right. So when I read in the beginning of this year, in 220, that Sylvia Brown made a prediction. I just did it in her book 2004. She said in 2004, she said, in What Is Your Destiny? Around 2020, wearing surgical masks and rubber gloves in public will become almost common because of the presence of a disease that attacks a pneumonia-like condition that attacks the lungs and bronchial tubes that is resistant to all cures, virtually.
Mhm.
All right? After a winter of absolute panic, the disease will disappear as unexpectedly as it came, only to reappear 10 years later.
Yeah.
Now, when I read those words, and I know I seen the quote, it isn't like fake news where they paste in a fake thing, right?
Yeah.
2004, in her book, she said that. Now, when she said the words surgical mask and rubber gloves, that got my attention. And I'm not a person whose attention is easy to get.
Yeah.
It really isn't. I'm as pig-headed as anybody here. And holy smokes. So when she says after it's going to disappear unexpectedly after a winter of absolute panic, guess what's coming up?
Winter.
And then in 2008, she made another prediction. In 2008, she said in her next book, between now and 2008, a sitting president is going to die in office from a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
The vice president who succeeds him will declare war on North Korea because of his knowledge, his true knowledge that they possess weapons of mass destruction, basically.
Mm-hmm.
All right? He'll declare war on North Korea. However, the opposition to this in Congress and in the military and around the world is so great, nothing will happen. However, his declaring war will alarm many, many people, and he will be assassinated before his term ends. Now, that's Pence, in my mind.
Yeah.
Pence is friends with John Bolton, the war nut.
Yeah.
When John Bolton, was trying to flog his book, this guy's a nut. All right? He goes, Mike Pence is one of the few clear-headed people in the office.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
So he made friends. He's clearly made friends with the warmonger, John Bolton, and they cooked up a plan that if they pull it off, because Pence knows his base of fervent, crapped out Christians, so-called Christians, only around 13%. You need the racists to go along with them to get that kind of voting power. And they don't got it. So if you can get the warmonger in there with him, maybe he's got a chance of pulling it off.
So watch this. So with that being shared there, that's information shared in a book from years and years ago. And a good majority of that stuff, has a lot of it sounds and seems plausible given the circumstances we're facing. And so based upon that that means that, Trump was probably getting a second term more than likely. Oh. And within that time.
No. I expect what that means is that Trump is going to have a heart attack before he leaves office. Pence will assume office and declare war on North Korea to solidify his political base or to get the military behind him. The military doesn't like Pence. Right? I mean, he's a born again, one of those. Yeah. These boys just like to kill people.
Yeah.
Pence doesn't mind killing people in Jesus' name, just like Billy Graham.
Yeah.
Billy Graham never refused to say a prayer before a war, even though it said, "Thou shalt not kill." I wrote a letter to a friend of mine who's born again Christian. I said, you know what? One of the most favorite books in the Bible, born again Christians, must be what is called the Book of Exceptions. Thou shalt not kill, except when the jihadists are over here. The first shall be last, and the last will be unless the last are just incompetent economically.
Uh-huh.
Turn the other cheek unless something bad's going to happen to you. That's the book of exceptions. One of the most popular book among Christians today.
I haven't read that one in a minute.
Oh yeah, they won't talk about it.
I don't know about that one.
You know,
Oh man,
but I assume it's got to exist.
I assume so. So watch this. We're streaming live with Darryl Schoon. I appreciate you, Darryl, because you bring so much energy and just passion behind you sharing, what's been in you for the last 20 plus years, as you've mentioned. So it's good to get that take. And so the idea of Trump not making it is something that I haven't really thought about it come across.
Change. Trump is a change agent, and he is destroying. He single-handedly destroyed the rich people's party, the elites, the GOP, out from under him. He destroyed it. The power boys, which are nothing more than bankers and the military, all right, used to play with the right-wing nuts and the born-again Christians and the disaffected Southerners for power because there's only so many rich people in this place.
Yeah.
So Trump came in and totally eviscerated them. On the left, the only thing is they're still in control, the establishment. But the new ones, the young people, the women, are trying to throw them out, just like the Tea Party did years ago, but they haven't quite done it yet. Mm-hmm. But what's happening, it's all going to collapse. And that's what Bucky Fuller said. Mm-hmm. We are in 1981, Bucky said, we are entering a period of unprecedented crises. Unprecedented. Mm-hmm. And he called the introduction was called Twilight of the World's Power Structures. He said political, religious, and economic institutions are going to collapse because a better world is coming where we cooperate and take care of each other. Well, we're a long way from that, apparently, but perhaps in time, when change is in the air like it is now, time gets compressed.
Whew, okay, so let's unpack some of that, because in that future that is mentioned there, we're far away from that. And so as of right now, the Federal Reserve is on a mission to, I guess, save the world, save this last paradigm of
their world. It's their world, Mike, not ours.
Right. And in doing so, they're going to destroy humanity as we've known it. And so what comes after that? And so a lot of people think that Trump is dismantling the Federal Reserve. He's trying to get rid of taxes and trying to get away and basically start over again, be the one that oversees the bankruptcy of this current dollar paradigm, or no?
That is total.
Shoot it straight.
Total jerking off.
Okay.
We've all done it since we were 12 years old. We all had our little dreams. Probably the girl sat next to us, the one that wouldn't even look at you, when you smiled at her, she turned away.
Yeah.
That dream is on that level.
Okay.
He is no more in control of that than they were, and they used to be in control. Mm-hmm. He came in there inadvertently. Mm-hmm. I mean, they couldn't keep him out, and the guy's rolling around like a bowling ball, in an earthquake. And the most fearful are going, "Oh man, he's got a plan." Mm-hmm. He's got a plan. Keep thinking that. Change is happening. Everybody was right that we needed change. That's what everybody agreed on the left and the right. And they both blamed each other. You did it. If it wasn't for you, life would be perfect. Come on. But it's bigger than us. And Mike, I think what we've done is we've overplayed the patience of God. All right. We don't even really, all those little platitudes, turn the other cheek, love their neighbors thyself. They were wonderful. And they struck a chord. But everybody goes, can't do that. I saw a sign 30 years ago. I'm walking across the street in Berkeley, and it said, "A man can't abide by the golden rule in a crowd that don't play fair." I walked back into the middle of the street to look at that sign. Mm-hmm. Wow. A man can't abide by the golden rule in a crowd that don't play fair. Now, I don't know what that says in Latin, but it should be the CIA's, motto.
Yeah.
Or Billy Graham's. Well, the Lord and Master Jesus did say to turn the other cheek and thou shalt not kill. But, we're up against, the Muslims. I'm sure he's in the book. I'm sure he's got an exception there. I'll pray on it.
An exception, the book of exception.
Right, pull the plug. That's what it is. But I believe in that. Mm-hmm. I believe in that fundament of that deep, deep spiritual truth.
Mhm.
You know, and one of the nasty things I've seen about credit, because me and credit and debt, it's all been, the same Darryl Schoon story for 25 years.
Mhm.
It's nuts. All right.
Mhm.
Debt in the banks. The truth is this: the more credit we had, the more selfish we got. The more selfish we got.
Yeah.
Everybody here who's got a job, his parents came over, except for the blacks who were held over as slaves, because that's the cheapest labor you can get. All
Mhm.
right. Came over here to try and make it better. And because we'd stolen the land from the Indians, and this place was pretty pristine,
Mhm.
air was clean, nice, everything was nice until we got a hold of it. All right.
Mhm.
Everything was good. And then we got selfish, Mike. We got really selfish. Everything that we saw somebody coming over that was in need, we saw them as a burden as a liability on our net worth. Even if we didn't have a net worth. Even if the only net worth we had was a credit card. Oh, there's only so much here. All right. And I'm not saying there's not reason to think that, because that's what the world looks like.
Yeah.
But that's what Jesus came to say. That's what the Buddhists said. They also, the game, the way you see it, it's not a long term. You can't play that way.
Yeah.
If you can't play that way. And we've held it off for millennium until the year 2000. Bucky called. He said this crisis is universally intended. And that was when he meant universe, he meant God.
Mhm.
He didn't call, because it's bigger than our concept of God. The born again Christians have a totally different concept of God than the jihadists over in Syria.
Yeah.
Each one is willing to die for it.
Yeah.
That jihadist who goes there and blows up a wedding is no different than the born again Christian who blows up a church
Mhm.
filled with disbelievers. Got that belief. Got that belief. Must be a real Christian or a real Muslim.
Mhm.
Real believer. Yeah. Take it out of here. It's dangerous. It's dangerous. It doesn't mean love isn't real.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that when God said we are all children of God, we are all children. We're all in. This is a wake-up call. It's going to strip us down, and we are going to take care of it. You can start seeing it, Mike. People really sort of. There are evidences of people being more concerned about each other now than we were before.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't ever expect to see the Southern Baptist Church and Walmart tell the state of Mississippi to take the Confederate flag out of their goddamn state flag. Holy shit! Where's that come from? That's what happens when you can't go to work, I guess.
Yeah. In fact, everybody been locked down and pinned in the house for a good portion of time. Everybody's a little. Everything is overly. Everyone's oversensitized right now.
Everyone is on edge.
Yeah.
But you know what you said? You said things are more possible now than at any other time because they're on edge, because of uncertainty. And that observation is true. It's like, and when it's like this, Mike, things can happen, and we can't see it because we're limited from our perception as people, our backgrounds, and what we want to happen and what we don't want to happen. I'm not saying I'm right, but I've heard enough of sources I consider to be right. All the fear that we're going through is for a reason. That all the trauma, I don't deny the trauma. I don't deny the trepidation. I don't deny what people are going through. I've had it lucky. I mean, I've had it lucky. My life hasn't been one straight line, but I've had it lucky compared to people on this planet. I wasn't that man swimming across the Rio Grande in Texas with his daughter on his back from Honduras that drowned, and their bodies ended up. You know what he was fleeing?
Starvation, poverty. Honduras is a tough place.
Violence, poverty, and what was his wife? Did she make it across, or did she see them enter the water? Now, Mike, whatever I've gone through is nothing compared to what happened to those three people. Zero. So I'm saying this in light of that. I'm saying that we're more than what we think we are. We're not just these sentient human beings that are here for a flicker and the light gets blown out, and our hope is we die watching, late night TV without a heart attack, and that we maybe win one of those timeshare things in Hawaii. We gotta go to Hawaii. It's more than that. And
Yeah.
if it isn't, we're up shit creek.
Yeah. Now watch this. Okay, so we got 4 months left, give or take, in this year 2020. And so give me how things will play out. And so assuming that the whole vaccine push is still being pushed, the pandemic, globally pandemic, we got so yeah, I can go down a rabbit hole with that one. But presidential election, the VP candidate for Biden was just announced yesterday. All the stuff that we're being bombarded with. How will all this end? How will 2021 start in your opinion?
All right. Now, what I want to do is say a disclaimer. That as knowledgeable as I am about matters of money, credit, debt, and the economy, I'm going to go off on some very edgy predictions. That
go ahead. Give it to us.
And the prediction is this: it's going to get worse at a whole lot of levels. All right. I'm not sure what they're going to do. What I'm sure is they don't have the requisite tools and ability to do what needs to be a system that can be saved. One of the statements I made was central bankers were given a limited time to solve an insolvable problem. All right, time's up. Time's up. Okay. Now, the most paranoid among us, believe that somebody's doing it on purpose. Now, why do I think they believe this? Because they know they didn't do it, and if I'm not doing it, somebody's doing it to me. Well, the idea of Fauci, Bill Gates, and George Soros getting together over tea to implant a chip in your kid. So, come on. Sell that to somebody else. All right? Sell that to somebody else. Take that crap out of here. Nonetheless, it is getting bad. And we aren't in control. I know we're not in control. And when you're not in control, the easiest thing is to blame somebody else. The only difference is my particular insanity, and it is, we're all insane. You know, I always said, how do you tell the mentally ill that just because they're ambulatory, it doesn't mean they're well? All right?
Yeah.
How do you tell them? So my belief, my faith is formed on something that most people don't share. All right? And I have the faith to believe that no matter how hellacious this is, no matter what the apparent destruction, that we all come back. You know, one of the things I wrote was we are eternal lights passing through temporal darkness. We cannot be harmed. We are love itself. Now, Mike, I know it doesn't seem like that, but I believe it because of what I've been through, because of my own particular path. Yeah, you know, my own particular path, which we can't share it with each other. You know, that's I can say it, and you can listen to it and think, well, as nutty as he is, or as, you know, deranged as he is about what's going to happen to us, he's still sort of positive. That shows how really crazy he is. Maybe, you know. So that's what it is. I thank God. My belief is that we're in the end times, but we're only in the end times of this particular phase. Humanity is going to go on. Another economy is going to evolve, but I think it's going to be qualitatively different than our present one. I think we're at the end of an epoch, of an era that's so stunning that the up level is not going to appear to be in any way what happened in the 20th century. Really? You know, it's really going to be magnificent, so radically different, but in a better way. And not in a way where Bill Gates and George Soros are having this, you know, nah.
Well, hey, Darryl, man, as always, it's great to have you on. And so we had I didn't see no questions. Nobody highlighted any questions that stood out. So no questions for you this time. But as always, it's great to have you on. I appreciate you for elaborating more on that article you wrote. And so I'll actually put that in the chat. And so if anybody wants to dive further into it and see some of those prophetic type of things that were provided from the psychic, and definitely can do such. But Darryl, any last thoughts you want to leave us with, where they can find out more of what you have going on? Anything you got that you want to announce or promote or anything?
There is on my website is www.drschon.com.
I got that.
And I just found out yesterday on September 13th, going to be live streamed on my friend Jeffrey Mishlev's YouTube channel. New Thinking Aloud.
Okay.
So that'll be in a month on September 13th.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. So definitely go visit him and subscribe and check him out. So Darryl, as always, man, it's good to connect with you. I appreciate you connecting with me on such short notice to elaborate more on your thoughts and feelings. That's where we're at and where we're going. And so hopefully I am optimistic overall that this will be in the long run. I believe the Lord will come through as always, as he has for his church. So I'm excited in a sense, but concerned for my children that have to experience this because nobody foresaw this coming, and it's disrupted a lot of people's lives, and we have to make best and adjust.
My metaphor about us and God, there's the Lord, there's God. He's got this stick, all right, over a fire. And the end of the stick is a marshmallow, and he's turning it real carefully up, further away, just to get it to the right thing, right there. And we're at that point where that marshmallow is almost done, all right, and we're going, I'm gonna catch that fire. And God is going, just a little more.
Unbelievable, man. Well, hey, Darryl, it's great to have you. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and joining this live stream. As always, make sure you get this video a thumbs up, share this, as well as we'll be back tonight to talk more about today's episode and everything else in between. So, Darryl, as always, it's good to connect with you. Looking forward to doing it again as we get through all this, and we'll see how this thing turns out. So,
Mike, if people don't agree with me, they can just say it was all the drugs I took in the 60s.
But like I mentioned before we went live, at this point, there's nothing that it can be considered too far-fetched at what we've been exposed to at this point. So that's why I'm open to hearing all avenues of what could be, because at some point we're going to find out after the fact.
At some point, we're going to find out. Thank you for that ending.
All right. Well, everybody be good. See you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your day.